Joining us now exclusively, and this is very exciting and timely, NVIDIA founder and CEO Jensen Huang and Synopsys CEO Sassine Ghazi. And both these gentlemen, I think, have a lot to say about the larger issues beyond what we've been dealing with. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on so much on Squawk on the Street. It's this timely moment.
Hey, Jim. Hey, Carl. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Great to be here.
All right, so Jensen, I'm going to take it head on. The first word that I saw when I was reading the partnership was expanded. So if it's expanded, explain to me why this is a big deal worth spending some time on for the world's investing populace.
This is a huge deal. The partnership we're announcing today is about revolutionizing one of the most compute-intensive industries in the world, design and engineering. Synopsys is pivoting across their company to transform their software and all the tools that the industry, the world's been using for some 35 years to be GPU accelerated on NVIDIA. They're going to pivot the company to build on top of NVIDIA CUDA, physical AI, as well as Omniverse, so that we could revolutionize all of these tools from EDA to SDA, system design automation, to CAE, to computer-aided drug discovery. This is going to expand the market of computing into the world of design and engineering for the very first time. This partnership is going to be revolutionary for that entire industry, expanding their TAM, expanding the capabilities. You know what's really amazing, Jim? This is really the culmination of everything I showed you when you visited NVIDIA years ago. It's taken this long for us to create the software stack necessary for Synopsys and the rest of the EDA industry and SDA industry in order for them to accelerate the software that they've historically only ran on CPUs. And as a result, we're able to do simulations at a speed and scale unimaginable in the past, so that we could do basically the entire engineering work inside a computer in a digital twin before we have to build it at all. So the type of products we can invent and the quality that we could do and the speed that we could do it at is going to be extraordinary.
Right, Jensen, I think that when you first introduced this to me, you explained to me over and over again, because I was so fascinated by what could happen with a chat GPT with the prompts, was, Jim, that's business to consumer, and it's really, really important. But you better start thinking enterprise. Enterprise is, you were using a number that is 10 times the size of what I was thinking about. Are you still standing by that?
Absolutely. If you look at what we're doing today, if you look, we've been partnering with Synopsys for a very long time. NVIDIA was built on a foundation of design tools from Synopsys and, of course, many other companies like Cadence and Siemens and Dassault. These are very important companies that the entire engineering industry is built on top of. As a result of what we're able to do today, we're able to bring GPU accelerated computing, NVIDIA's CUDA, into the world's industrial sector for the very first time. This is physical AI. This is AI that obeys the laws of physics, that AI that interacts with the physical world. This is extremely complex stuff. It's taken us years to be able to do this. And now, if you look at the world's industrial sector, it's measured in trillions of dollars. So for both NVIDIA and Synopsys and the entire industry, this is a giant expansion of opportunity.
All right, so let me speak to you about this, Sassine, because when I spoke with you, the thing that was important was you were about to close the Ansys deal. And autos are another gigantic market. I'm trying to put things in perspective. You get the money from NVIDIA. It's not exclusive. That's important, but the partnership matters a great deal. That when I look at the engineering that you do in aerospace, in automotive, in industrial, I say to myself, wait a second, should I really be concerned that Gemini 3 may win the battle against Perplexity? Am I small thinking if I'm focused just on that niche?
So, Jim, Synopsys' roots have been providing essential solutions for semiconductor design and verification. With the Ansys acquisition, it expands our TAM for every engineering workload. Think about any product that you just mentioned, be it automotive, robotics, drones, machinery for industries. They're getting so sophisticated, they're going to become AI-driven, meaning to design these systems, you need sophisticated engineering solutions in order to deliver these systems on time, deal with the complexity at a cost that is affordable. So now with the Ansys portfolio, it expanded our TAM significantly. In order to deliver these solutions and delivering it in time for the customer to be able to simulate, you need acceleration, be it a GPU, be it AI to change the workflow, digital twin of the whole system. You need to re-engineer engineering in order to deliver to these sophisticated future products.
Wow, re-engineer engineering. I'm looking at Carl. It's so important to try to put everything in perspective because, Jensen, if you were here and we didn't have the Synopsys, I would be saying, are you worried that the spend on AI for the data center is now well exceeding the cash flows for several of the key companies, for Oracle and OpenAI, and that perhaps the investment in OpenAI that you've made is a little, maybe should be a little more iffy? Are these the kinds of questions? Is the CapEx unsustainable for these kinds of, for the hyperscalers? Are these the kinds of questions that are really just part of the horse race and not part of the fourth industrial revolution that you've taught me about?
Most people only see the tip of the iceberg and they see a partial part of the picture, as you know. I think what's going on at the foundation, we're going through a platform shift from classical general purpose computing running on CPUs to a new way of doing computing, accelerated computing running on GPUs. That old way of doing is going to continue to exist, of course, but the world is shifting to this new way of doing computing. The cash flow of the world's hyperscalers are at the core really about supporting this platform shift. With or without agentic AI, with or without chatbots, the world's hyperscalers would have made this platform shift anyhow, because this is a much more efficient way of doing computing. The general purpose computing has really run its course. Moore's law, as you know, is slowing tremendously. And so the world needs a more powerful, more capable way of doing computing going forward. And so at the foundation is that. The second thing to realize is that AI is not just chatbots. Chatbots are incredible. Cognition AI is very important, but AI covers the entire world of physical AI, industrial AI, robotics, sciences, digital biology. AI is going to transform every single industry. This is the part that we've been talking about for a very long time. You and I have been talking about this literally for years. It's just less visible because consumers don't have to use engineering tools that we use from Synopsys and Cadence and others. We don't, our companies use these tools because it's mission critical to us. These industrial applications, these industrial tools where accelerated computing and AI are now in the process of revolutionizing, are foundational to our industries. It's not optional to us. It's mission critical to us. And now for the first time, we're at the tipping point of that, and we're going to revolutionize the industrial software industry with it.
And just to give you a sense, Jim, what Jensen's referring to, you're taking a workload that may run for 2-3 weeks and reducing it to hours. And that's the value we're delivering to the customers through this partnership and accelerating the software on GPU from NVIDIA.
Right. Although, Jensen, I'm sure you can sympathize with viewers who are trying to keep up with just your deal flow. We're trying to keep up with your deal flow. And I guess you must, I'm wondering your communication strategy. How do you keep people afloat when they can't be expected to understand that view from 40,000 feet?
Well, we'll just kind of keep trying harder, Carl. I think that the important concept here is that accelerated computing and AI is revolutionizing every single industry. Of course, it started in the consumer segment. And the reason why it starts in the consumer segment is because getting the answer 90% right is a pretty magical thing. But the industrial segment, that 10% you don't get right, becomes mission critical. And so it takes longer for us to create the tools, create the technology necessary for the industrial sectors, the enterprise segments, to be able to adopt this technology. But the time is now here. This platform shift that happened starting about 10 years ago, starting in consumers, is now in the process of happening across the world's industries. Let me give you one statistic. I think this is actually about the same time that I met Jim. During that year, 2016, the world's scientific supercomputers was 90% CPUs and 10% GPUs. This year, it's 90% GPUs and 10% CPUs. The platform shift has happened. Now, that's in scientific computing. What Synopsys does, what this industry does with engineering, is founded on science, founded on physics. And so principled physics. We're in the process of making the shift in this industry now. This is one of the most computing intensive industries in the world. And now during this transition, we're now doing the platform shift for this entire industry and elevating it with AI. We're going to expand the market really tremendously for this industry. It's a really exciting time.
Okay, so let me just follow up on that, gentlemen, because business to consumer is very, very big. But what I've been concerned about is OpenAI is almost entirely right now business to consumer. We like Google so much. Obviously, they're winning the horse race right now. How do we convince people, and you did it to me, but I'm struggling with others, that business to business is really the nirvana of what you're doing? And the business to consumer, while very exciting to white collar, very exciting to people who want to play with it and get answers, it's not a sideshow, but it's much smaller than what we should be thinking about.
Well, consumer IT is exciting. You know, it moves quickly. New technologies could be introduced quickly because, as I mentioned, getting 90% right in recommending a movie, or 90% right in recommending an ad, or 90% right in recommending, the next item in your basket is plenty delightful. However, in the world of designing cars, planes, factories, building NVIDIA chips, you've got to be perfect. And the reason for that is because we have so much at stake. And so this industry requires the technology to be extraordinary. It takes longer time, but when it happens, the size of the industry is incredibly large. As you know, the world's $100 trillion industry is largely industrial and enterprise to enterprise. These are enterprise, serious industrial enterprise applications that are now being transformed by this platform shift.
But all right, Sassine, am I supposed to believe that what will happen at a lot of the Dell conference call where Jeff Clark talked exactly about AI factories, that we're going to see a new shift, that we should be thinking about how much GM is spending, how much BMW is spending, how much Siemens is spending, how much the big Korean shipyards are spending? Is that what we should now add to the mix, and not just perplexity against Anthropic?
Exactly. If you think of all the companies you just mentioned, and the percentage of R&D they invest in automation, in software, etc., is going to become exponential, driven by the complexity and the sophistication of what they're building. So if they were spending 2% of their revenue in R&D dedicated to the software automation and the technology, is going to get significantly higher due to complexity in order for them to remain competitive and delivering for the future.
All right, and then Jensen, I know
here's an easy way to think about it. One of the things that's really important is almost all industrial companies that make things like NVIDIA, like GM, like Boeing, these are companies that spend probably hundreds of millions, maybe very low billions of dollars in engineering software tools. However, the amount that they spend in prototyping all of those products is easily 10, 20 times higher. It's absolutely the same case here at NVIDIA. We spend a few $100 million in EDA tools and design tools. However, we spend billions of dollars in prototyping it. In the future, we're going to prototype all of these products digitally so that we don't waste any money when we build it physically. In order to prototype things digitally, simulate it inside a digital twin, this is all the things I've been talking to you about.
Right.
All of a sudden, the market opportunity increases by a factor of 10, 100.
Okay, so last question. Right now, we spend a lot of time talking about Google and what they're doing with their own TPU, and we talk about whether Meta will do it. But one thing that you taught me was you like to think 20 years forward and then backward. I'm thinking about Vera Rubin. I had to go read that Richard Feynman book because you mentioned he's a pretty funny guy. But I mean, when I look at the Vera Rubin and the Feynman, am I going to be saying, you know what, that was a great thing those other guys had during that 9-month window that Jensen allowed them to have?
Listen, we've been we've been competing with ASICs now for quite a long time, and Google has had ASICs for a long time. NVIDIA, and they did a great job, as you know, and I've always been complimentary.
Right. Always.
What NVIDIA does is much more versatile. Our technology is much more fungible. Notice the announcement today. Accelerating Synopsys design tools, the EDA, the SDA, the CAE tools, requires a computer architecture like CUDA. It's not available for ASICs. And so NVIDIA can address markets that are much, much broader, not just chatbots. We're also everywhere. We're in every cloud, we're in every single OEM, we're on-prem, and we're also at the edge. And so the NVIDIA opportunity is much, much larger. And you're now seeing a real tangible example of an opportunity that we could do with our platform that nobody else can. And so this is a very big opportunity for us, huge opportunity to reinvent the EDA industry, the design and engineering industry for Synopsys and the rest of the industry, and a growth opportunity for us because this is so computationally intensive.
I was just thinking, the classic book is Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman.
Yeah.
Maybe it should be Surely You're Joking, Mr. Huang.
Because of Jensen.
Yeah.
Yes, Jensen really helped me. Jensen, I didn't get to ask you about how none of your revenue includes China. Should I have just included that as a boiler point and that you can't talk about what's going on? Kind of a coda.
Well, you know, I would like everybody to just assume that China is a bonus opportunity in the future. At the moment, we got plenty of, our demand is really strong, as you know. Demand is really skyrocketing, and over the next couple of years, we've got a lot of demand we have to go serve. And if China comes along, which I believe is going to be in the best interest of the United States as well as China and the rest of the world, that's going to be a huge bonus opportunity for us.
All right, I want to thank Sassine Ghazi from Synopsys, a great company. It was more than a $30 billion acquisition they made of Ansys. And Jensen Huang comes on, and Jensen, I can't thank you enough for giving us the perspective that you gave me almost a decade ago, that business consumer is very interesting, focus on business to business. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
All right, I hope you're all doing great today. I'm going to talk about NVIDIA in a moment, but really quick, I want to mention something that's very important to the entire market, and I want you to be prepared for what's ahead. Much of the market was in the red early in today's trading session after the Japanese 10-year yield surged notably higher. I'm bringing this to your attention as a heads up. You may remember that the last 2 times the Bank of Japan raised interest rates, U.S. stocks reacted negatively shortly thereafter, both in August of 2024 and then again in early 2025. Why am I mentioning this now? Because many market participants expect the Bank of Japan to raise interest rates again at their next meeting on December 19th. Some are calling for the BOJ to wait until January to raise rates, but we'll see what happens. I'm not going to get into all the details of the yen carry trade or Japan's debt situation right now, because that would take an entire video to explain. The very simplified short version is that Japanese interest rates have been very low for a very long time, and that resulted in many large firms borrowing large amounts of money from Japan and then using that money to purchase U.S. assets, including U.S. stocks. And so if the Bank of Japan raises rates and the yen rises, some of those U.S. assets will have to be sold. Again, that is a very surface level and simplified explanation due to a lack of time, but that's essentially what's happening. Be prepared for some potential volatility this month ahead of the BOJ meeting on December 19th, and also after the meeting if they raise interest rates, because that would likely have an effect on U.S. stocks. Now, let's talk about NVIDIA. Today, NVIDIA announced an expanded partnership with Synopsys, as well as a $2 billion investment in the company. The deal entails a multi-year collaboration spanning NVIDIA CUDA, accelerated computing, agentic and physical AI, and omniverse digital twins, opening new market opportunities across engineering. The companies will also collaborate in engineering and marketing activities to further adoption of GPU accelerated engineering solutions. This collaboration will enable R&D teams to design, simulate, and verify intelligent products with greater precision, speed, and at a lower cost. This partnership is a big deal. I've been pounding the table in recent months about NVIDIA's physical AI business because I genuinely don't think it's getting enough attention right now. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. Really quick, I want to remind you that NVIDIA is set to present at the UBS Global Technology and AI Conference this Tuesday, December 2nd at 6:35 a.m. Pacific, 9:35 a.m. Eastern. This event will likely have an impact on how NVIDIA trades in the short term, given that this event is geared toward the financial community. I expect the topic of GPU depreciation and useful life to be brought up given all the recent talk from well-known short sellers. As a reminder, I disagree with the premise that the hyperscalers are understating GPU depreciation in order to artificially boost earnings. Rather, I think the hyperscalers have simply come to the realization that the useful life of the hardware is longer than what they originally anticipated, due mainly to 2 factors: NVIDIA's continuous improvements of older generations generation hardware through software. And second, the world is severely compute constrained in the face of very strong AI demand. Since the world is compute constrained, developers will use whatever compute they can get their hands on, including hardware that under normal circumstances would be considered older generation. This extends the useful life of the hardware. There's a reason why NVIDIA, 100 GPUs from 6 years ago, are still running at full utilization today. There's a reason why CoreWeave is able to rent out H100 capacity at 95% of the original rental price. The world is compute constrained, and there is simply not enough supply to meet the demand. That is fundamentally opposite of a bubble. A bubble is characterized by a surplus of supply and a shortage of demand. Today, we're seeing the complete opposite. Today, there's a shortage of supply in the face of very strong demand. At the peak of the dot-com bubble, most of the fiber that had been laid was dark. Today, there are no dark GPUs. Every GPU is spoken for as the world simply cannot get enough compute to meet the demand, and that will likely continue for at least a few years. As I've said for many months now, I'm expecting a surge in compute demand fueled by agentic AI that extends well into 2026. Jensen appears to agree with this given his recent commentary about agentic AI. And then after that, I think the next major surge in compute demand will be fueled by physical AI. And physical AI is where the NVIDIA Synopsys partnership comes into focus. Today, most analysts are hyper-focused on NVIDIA's data center business, and I don't think they are adequately factoring in growth from some of NVIDIA's other business segments into their long-term NVIDIA estimates. NVIDIA's CFO nailed it on the earnings call when she said that physical AI addresses, quote, a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity and the next leg of growth for NVIDIA. I am completely serious when I say that I think NVIDIA's physical AI business may eventually be larger than their current data center business. This is not getting enough attention right now, but I think it will get a lot of attention in 2026 and 2027. Additionally, I think we will see many new use cases emerge as a result of physical AI, and that should increase the need for compute even further. NVIDIA sells the hardware for the data centers where the models are trained. They offer Omniverse where the models are taught and tested, and NVIDIA also sells the hardware that allows on-device real-time inference through NVIDIA AGX, allowing robots to have intelligent interactions with the real world even when they are not connected to a data center. Notice that NVIDIA is taking a holistic platform approach to physical AI, and they're embedding themselves as the underlying foundation supporting all of it. Over 2 million developers are already building on the NVIDIA robotics stack, and this is not getting enough attention. I continue to think that most analysts' long-term NVIDIA estimates are too low given what's ahead. As for production ramps, Blackwell Ultra is ramping very quickly right now, leading to revenue growth acceleration. Rubin is on track to launch in 2026. Then we're expecting Rubin CPX at the end of 2026. Later on, we're expecting the launch of Rubin Ultra in 2027 and Feynman after that in 2028. We have a clear data center product roadmap stretching into 2028, and Jensen believes there will be $3 to $4 trillion of global AI factory buildout between now and 2030. That means Jensen is expecting growing AI demand and an expanding total addressable market underpinning all of this. I don't think we are anywhere near any type of bubble bursting type of event. With all of this in mind, I seriously think that NVIDIA still has plenty of runway ahead of it, and I think this company will be worth substantially more in future years than it is today. At least that's my view of the situation. Remember to stay calm in this market. Remember to maintain a long-term perspective, and do not make any hasty or irrational decisions. With all of that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of the day, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about NVIDIA in the comments below. Please leave a like on this video so more people will see it. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.